What if I told you that most people completely miss the moment their financial life starts changing? Not because they are careless, not because they are bad with money, but because they are looking for the wrong signs. Most people think getting rich looks obvious. A luxury car, a six-figure salary, a huge house, a social media lifestyle that makes everyone else jealous. But real wealth rarely announces itself that way. In fact, some of the strongest signs that you're becoming financially successful look so ordinary that most people ignore them. And years later, they realize those were the exact moments that separated people who built wealth from people who stayed stuck. The scary part? You could be experiencing some of these signals right now and not even recognize them. Because real wealth doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in your behavior. And by the end of this video, you'll know whether you're quietly building a future most people never reach. Let's begin. Signal number 1. You no longer need to look rich. One of the most powerful wealth signals has nothing to do with how much money you make. It's how much you need other people to think you make. Think about this. When people are financially insecure, they often spend money trying to create an image. The newest phone, designer brands, luxury cars they can barely afford, expensive dinners, constant upgrades. Not because they need them, because they want validation. They want proof. They want people to see them as successful. But something strange happens when people start building real wealth. The desire to impress begins to fade. They stop buying things for applause. They stop making financial decisions based on what others might think. Instead, they focus on what creates freedom. And freedom is invisible. Nobody notices when you invest money. Nobody compliments your emergency fund. Nobody sees your retirement account growing. Nobody likes your post because you increased your savings rate. But those invisible actions create visible results later. Warren Buffett still lives in a house he bought decades ago. Many millionaires drive ordinary vehicles. Many wealthy people wear simple clothes, not because they can't afford more, because they don't need more to prove anything. The truly dangerous financial trap isn't being poor, it's trying to look rich. Because looking rich costs money. Being rich creates money. Those are two completely different paths. And if you've noticed yourself caring less about appearances and more about financial security, that's a signal, a very powerful one. Because wealth begins the moment validation stops controlling your spending. Signal number 2. Small problems no longer feel like emergencies. Imagine two people. Both receive a surprise $1,000 expense. The first person panics immediately. They check their account. Stress takes over. They start calculating which bills can be delayed. Credit cards become the backup plan. Sleep becomes difficult. The problem spreads into every area of life. Now look at the second person. They're annoyed. Nobody likes unexpected expenses, but they handle it. The money comes from savings. The situation gets solved. Life moves forward. Same problem, completely different experience. Why? Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about resilience. One of the earliest signs of financial progress is not having more money. It's having more margin. Margin creates peace. Margin creates options. Margin creates stability. And stability is one of the rarest financial assets in the modern world. Most people spend every dollar they earn, sometimes more, which means even a small disruption becomes a crisis. But when you begin building wealth, you slowly create a buffer between yourself and chaos. Unexpected expenses stop feeling like disasters. They become inconveniences, and that's a massive shift. Because constant financial stress destroys decision-making. Research consistently shows that financial anxiety reduces focus, increases emotional reactions, and leads to poor choices. Wealth does the opposite. It gives your brain room to think, room to plan, room to act strategically. If life's surprises aren't controlling your emotions the way they used to, you may be wealthier than you realize. Signal number 3. You think about assets more than paychecks. Most people spend their entire lives focused on income. How can I make more money? It's not a bad question. But wealthy people eventually start asking a different one. How can my money make money? That's when everything changes. The average person works for income. The wealthy build assets. Assets work when you don't. Investments, businesses, stocks, real estate, royalties, dividend-producing accounts, systems that generate value over time. This shift usually happens quietly. You begin paying attention to compound growth. You become interested in investing. You start learning about financial independence. You realize there is a limit to how many hours you can work. But there is no limit to how long assets can work. This is where many people's financial lives transform, because income creates cash flow. Assets create wealth, and wealth grows faster when time becomes your partner. Imagine planting a tree. The first few years don't look impressive. Growth seems slow, almost invisible. Then eventually the roots become strong enough to support rapid expansion. Investing works exactly the same way. The early stages feel boring. The later stages feel magical. Most people quit before they reach the magical part. But if you've started paying attention to assets instead of only paychecks, you're seeing the world differently. And that's one of the strongest wealth signals there is. Signal number 4. You have longer-term thinking than most people. One of the biggest differences between wealthy people and everyone else isn't intelligence, it's time horizon. Most people think about next weekend, next month, maybe next year. Wealth builders think in decades. They ask different questions. How will this decision affect me in 5 years? 10 years? 20 years? This type of thinking changes everything. Because short-term decisions often feel good. Long-term decisions often look boring. Buying something expensive feels exciting today. Investing that money feels boring today. Until 10 years pass, then the results reverse. This is why delayed gratification shows up in so many studies about success. People who can sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term gain consistently outperform those who can't. Not because they're smarter, because they're patient. And patience has become a superpower. Modern society rewards instant gratification. One-click purchases, instant entertainment, instant delivery, instant approval. Wealth grows in the opposite direction. Slowly, consistently, quietly. Which means if you've developed the ability to think years ahead instead of days ahead, you're already behaving differently than the majority, and behavior predicts outcomes. Long before outcomes become visible. Signal number 5. Your savings rate is becoming more important than your lifestyle. Here's a truth that surprises many people. A person earning $70,000 while saving 25% of their income can build more wealth than someone earning $150,000 while saving almost nothing. Income matters, but what you keep matters more. Most people experience something called lifestyle inflation. As income rises, expenses rise. The nicer apartment, the luxury vehicle, more subscriptions, more dining out, more spending, more financial pressure. The paycheck gets bigger, the freedom doesn't. But wealthy people learn to break this cycle. Every raise doesn't become a spending opportunity. It becomes a wealth-building opportunity. They increase investments, increase savings, increase ownership, and over time, the gap between earning and spending becomes enormous. That gap is where wealth lives. Not in income, not in status, not in appearances, in the gap. The larger the gap becomes, the faster wealth compounds. And if you've started protecting that gap instead of spending it, you're building one of the strongest financial foundations possible. Here's what most people never understand. Getting rich rarely feels like getting rich. At least not at first. It feels like discipline. It feels like patience. It feels like saying no. It feels like consistency. It feels like boring decisions repeated over and over again. That's why so many people miss the signs. They're looking for a dramatic breakthrough, while wealth is quietly being built in ordinary moments. The truth is, financial success begins long before the lifestyle changes, long before the luxury purchases, long before the impressive numbers. It begins when your habits start moving in the right direction. So ask yourself, which of these 5 signals do you already see in your life? Because if several of them sound familiar, you may be much closer to financial freedom than you think, and years from now, you'll be grateful you recognized the signs before it was too late. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more insights on wealth, money psychology, and financial freedom. And tell me in the comments, which wealth signal surprised you the most? Because your answer might help someone else recognize their own progress too.